Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 3, Episode 20. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro, and with me is the symbiote.
Paul. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Yeah, so again, the tradition of something that's kind of like percolating in the mind, and me throwing in that nickname to you. How you doing, Paul? I know you had something stuck in your throat.
I did, and you were going to hear me struggle with it like the entire time today. For whatever reason, I just can't.
Drink water.
See, that would be the easy solution, but I feel like that hasn't been helping me lately.
Yeah. But hey, you made it off work now. Today, it's technically a special episode because for the first time since we restarted the show in 2021, we're at the end of May, and we're actually going to talk about a freaking PlayStation showcase. Because ever since we came back in 2021, no showcase in the summer of 2021. We had to wait until September. No showcase at all throughout 2022, just state of plays here and there. And now finally a PlayStation showcase during the summer. The last one we got was during the pandemic, the PlayStation reveal. So this feels like a very, especially for us that are PlayStation like centric, even though we play everything. Like the game that we're currently playing is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which we're not going to talk about today because I don't think we have much more to say than we already said last week. My thoughts are still the same. I feel even stronger about it even now. But
people have gotten even better at building things.
Yeah.
It's shocking they have Metal Gear in it
now.
A
lawnmower.
At what was I at? Like 75 hours or something when I showed you.
125
I
now.
will say, if I don't start pushing to do the actual main storyline, I can feel myself losing steam.
So it's ironic you mentioned that, because when I saw my hour count and I finally defeated the boss that I spent countless hours to build myself up to be able to build, once that happened, I was like, this is time. I've explored everything I want. I've got everything I want. Let me just mainline through the story. But this is not going to be a Zelda show because this is the PlayStation Showcase show. Before we dive into that, this is a reminder that this is the X Button Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/escape-gaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So skipping games we've been playing, Paul, so PlayStation Showcase finally happened yesterday from when we're recording. I actually did like a live reactions to that showcase with our buddy Sebastian over at the Single Player Experience. He is now editing that reaction, so I'm waiting for him to finally edit. I'm gonna be sharing it because that felt like I intentionally did this because last time in the one having to edit showcases, having to edit videos, I was like, I'm gonna let him do this time.
It's a nightmare, isn't it?
Oh, and it's horrible, especially because I need to find a way to make that be more immediate. That's something that I have to learn more technical, so I don't have to be waiting. Like I see so many people have their reactions ready to go because they live stream it. We don't live stream it. We kind of like watch a live stream and then like upload the video. So, and then I recorded my immediate thoughts, like for a podcast episode with him, right as you were getting off work, and you watched and I told you to watch the entirety of the showcase, and you mentioned some things that would have made it worth it to us having done that live reaction. It's just I was already in the middle of
for the sheer level of reaction. But I understand in hindsight, it was like you were still in the middle of it. So it makes sense.
And I didn't want to keep you whole because think about it this way. Had I finished that episode and then because I wanted to do maybe like a live reactions of you watching it live, even though I already seen kind of like what we did the Nintendo Direct that revealed.
You would have gotten some good material, I'll tell you.
Yeah. No, I can't wait for that one because I did have some reactions to that one. But kind of like how we did that Nintendo Direct that you didn't watch it live. We watched it. I watched it live, but I still like live reacted with you, even though I knew it was coming because I wanted to see it. That I wanted to kind of do that, but your time, like you're like in Eastern time, because that would have pushed it farther. I didn't want to like hold it, like hold you. So that's why I was like, let's just talk about this show, and we're here now. So it's been a day. Before I say anything, top level, what do you think of the showcase for 2023? Their first one overall in 2 years.
Yeah, see, that's the important distinction.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it by itself, the games shown, the time that they took, how close everything is to release, or whatever.
The presentation with how they
presentation,
how they presented it.
It's like, it's great. I loved almost everything that was shown. There was only like 3 or 4 games that I just kind of skipped over as I was rewatching it, or not rewatching, but watching the playback as I caught up to live. And I was either mildly surprised, okay, this looks kind of cool, and at the highest level, I was like standing up out of my couch going, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
and all of that stuff.
When you, because while I was recording my like thoughts on the show with Sebastian, you texted me, but like at the moment, and I immediately texted back, you got to this part, right? Because it was the moment where I also popped, but not the first thing of those things, because it was a 1-2 punch with like what that was with that review, which we're gonna talk about. So okay, so you enjoyed it. So I'll throw in is like, yeah, by itself it was a solid showing of games. This thing had 34 games, and it took around 70 minutes for this entire showcase to go. So respectful of our time, kind of like what I always tell you. Something is like, if you can give us a lot like in a smaller amount of time, so it's not like the Jeff Keighley joints that can go for 2 or 3 hours, and then when you look back, especially the last year Summer Game Fest that started strong with 2 back-to-back gameplay demos, and then we got like a bunch of like the same kind of game like all back together, and it didn't have like a big bump at the end. So this was at least respectful of the time. I'm conflicted about the showcase because yes, it was a good showcase of games, but I don't think it was a great PlayStation showcase, considering like what the name PlayStation Showcase means. Obviously, ever since Sony dropped off from E3, their first solution, like in the year after they dropped off E3, was that they were gonna do the Nintendo Direct style, like PlayStation State of Plays. And State of Plays have been like through their entire existence very hit and miss. It's a collection of third-party games that, because they had third-party partnerships, they need a stage to be shown. They have the partnership and they sporadically show them like throughout the year. Sometimes the State of Plays can be like centered about like one big first party game. Like the first ever State of Play was around Days Gone. Like they showed the launch trailer for Days Gone in that one. And then the next State of Play was around Final Fantasy VII Remake. Not a game from them, but it was an exclusive for them. So that was kind of like the ending of that. Then the next State of Play for that one was centered around Resident Evil 3, which again, not a game from them, but a big game associated with the brand, and Ghost of Tsushima. So that's always kind of been the structure. But then when they did the PlayStation Showcase in 2020, the one that revealed the console and gave us so many exclusives, like actually PlayStation branded games. Just think about like the games that were revealed in that one. We got Miles Morales, we got Horizon Forbidden West, we got Gran Turismo 7, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, we got Sackboy, we got Demon Souls, we got like their exclusive gets for third party with Deathloop, with Ghostwire Tokyo. It's like, look how much, and those games are like, no, this is things that you can play here. And a bunch of those were like just CG trailers, but also showing you a little bit of what the game would look like in game. And one like big gameplay showcase, which was Ratchet and Clank. Then later that year, we got another showcase, which is the one that we got the prize on. And that was a repeat a little bit some of the games that we had seen just trailers on. That's when we got gameplay of Miles Morales, we got gameplay of Demon Souls, we got the reveal of Final Fantasy 16 being a PlayStation exclusive also, and the reveal of God of War Ragnarok that didn't even have the name. It was just the year that we knew. It was like, wait, it's coming in next year? You didn't even give a title. This thing is not coming out. And then the showcase afterwards, which was the day you were coming back from Hurricane Ida shelter, that was a showcase that also showcased a bunch of stuff that were going to be exclusive for them. KOTOR Remake, which right now we know it's like in limbo forever, but that was like exclusive to them. What ended up becoming Stellar Blade was like the Project Eve was showcased there. Forspoken and exclusive was also showcased there. Then a bunch of third-party stuff before they gave us the back-to-back bangers of Uncharted 4 coming to PS5 with 60 frames in the collection, Wolverine by Insomniac, Spider-Man 2 by Insomniac, another look at GT7, and God of War Ragnarok, finally seeing gameplay. What you remember of the showcases are what are the things that we're going to be eating from PlayStation. When we look at this one from this year, when you look at the structure of what they showed us and like the weight of the things they showed us, this felt more like a State of Play. Bunch of third parties and a bunch of third-party association. A lot of good games in those associations. But the things that were for like showcase worthy for PlayStation, there were 4 first-party games here. Do you know which were the 3 other than the big one that ended?
have no idea.
my point exactly. Why? Because they did what we always like criticize others for doing. Just CGI trailers for the first look without us getting a tangible feel of like what these games are. Like we got the game from Haven Studio, we got the game from Firewalk, and we got a game from Bungie. With Bungie, at the very least, you could like go check This Week at Bungie and get an idea of like what their game's gonna be. But with the other ones, we know those two are gonna be two of the live service games, but we didn't see an iota of what they even are attempting of doing. So nothing tangible, and then no new first-party single player announcement. It was just us getting the gameplay for Spider-Man 2, which was, hey, the game looks great. It's like, we were gonna say a few feelings about how I feel. I have been looking at it. It's like objectively, you look at that, it's like it's what you expect the sequel to that game to look like, one that builds upon it. It would have been great having that and then something more. But this was us going to a fancy restaurant. We're getting a lot of exquisite entrees. We got a meal that we usually know it's good, but then we're teased of maybe they have a new meal that could be succulent. They're going to take a little while before we get it. And then by the time we ask for that meal, they tell us they didn't have the meal. We have to wait for the next time. So by the time we got to the end, I was like, that was it? Oh no. And this is what they made us wait for 2 years. Had this been just a showcase we have gotten, if we got one last year, this would have been like, yeah, that was decent. I mean, it's like not all of these can be winners. That's just that's objective fact. You're always gonna have your bangers. You're always gonna have other ones that are like, that wasn't great, but at least we got something. Kind of like we've had that mentality of like, if we can get 3 or 4 things out of this thing that we're excited about, it's like that should be like slight success, or at least the minimum expectation for like success of like, at least I got something out of it. I feel this clears that. Unfortunately, it's like when I know the context of why this got so delayed, why we waited this long, because of that damn Activision Blizzard deal that they intentionally withheld the showcase to not to seem weak. And now when they come in, they still like are not showing us, oh yeah, so you have not been cooking like we thought we were. We thought you cooked extra time because now you were gonna give us the roadmap. You were gonna give us, now it's like these are like the next 2 or 3 years for PlayStation, like the last ones that we got. Like it's so crazy to think that we got a full roadmap with the other ones, so we didn't get with this one. This felt like a filler episode. And if we hadn't waited this long, this feels like the Nintendo Direct that came after a full year without one during the pandemic. That then when Nintendo came back, it wasn't that it was bad, but that being the first one after they've been gone for so long, it felt extra disappointing, even though it's not an objective disappointment. So, and we can go over the games real quick now. It's just I'm gonna just read them like quick, and then we can have like some thoughts on those. Because we're trying to keep this slightly shorter because we have some other stuff to go into.
We'll be here forever.
So yeah, so the PlayStation showcase started with Fair Games, which is a game by Haven Studio. But this is one of the acquisitions from last year. This is the studio by Jade Raymond, the former Assassin's Creed / Watch Dogs executive producer, the one that like helped fund the teams when she was at Ubisoft. She went to Google Stadia, and then Stadia canned all first party things. She was like, peace out. And then she made a PlayStation studio that initially, well, not a PlayStation studio. She made an individual studio that PlayStation helped fund. And they were going to do like a second party before the consolidation war started. And they were like, you know what? We're not going to wait. Let's put we got our one night stand going. Like the sex was good. Let's put a ring on it. So that's what they did. That's the new MO for PlayStation for acquisition. So this was the game from that studio. And very Ubisoft like. I just throw it out there. And then because apparently the art director for Watch Dogs Legion is working on it, so makes sense. Then the next game after that one was Helldivers 2. This is a sequel from that indie 2014-2015 very popular top-down shooter for the PS4 that was like Destiny but in third person and top-down and like with like Diablo's asymmetric view. This was them shifting it now more towards the classic PlayStation third person over the shoulder actions game. And this is going to be now an online heavy co-op game that's coming later this year for PS5 and PC. Then we got an extended look at Immortals of Avium, the Magic Call of Duty style game that's like Magic first person game from EA Originals. This was announced at the Game Awards, but very quick. This is one of the games that EA said was going to come out this year, and we got a release date for that one. That's coming out on July 20th. So another game for this very packed summer. Then Ghost Runner, the sequel to Ghost Runner 2 was revealed, not with gameplay, but well, they had a little bit, tiny bit of gameplay that looked more Ghost Runner. That's a game that I got on PS Plus. I think you got it too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun, but it's like, yeah, it's one more of those, and coming out in 2023. Then maybe you can talk a little bit more about this one right now. A game by S Game called Phantom Blade Zero, which it's a game that to me looked like Ninja Gaiden, like with the fast hack and slash, and apparently it's a Souls-like. But I'm like, that doesn't look like a Souls-like to me. I mean, maybe like in the grotesqueness of the designs, but not like the fastness of the gameplay.
Usually in the marketing, they try to like hit you with some of that, like, oh, that's really difficult, but this was just like high action craziness and like dueling on carriages and stuff, and I was like, I'm about it. Okay, this is really cool, but I don't know how much you want to interject for each one, because I have probably something to say about each of them, honestly.
Yeah, if you have something to say, like, I can go like quick, but if you want to say them now, we can say it here. So
okay, well, real quick, stepping back, Immortals of Avenom, I think, has completely lost me.
Oh yeah,
it's such a cool concept, and the more I see of it, the less interested I get. Helldivers 2 looks actually really interesting, and I honestly, when I started it up, I missed Fair Games completely, and I thought Helldivers was where we started. So, yeah, that's pretty much.
And that's the thing; they show nothing about Fair Games, so you didn't miss anything. I didn't miss. We just know the name, but yeah, this was. I say with the Phantom Blade because this was the first one that caught my eye as something like, okay, this looks very high quality. It's made on Unreal Engine 5. It has like that quickness to it. I have some concerns with the fact that this is also a PS5 exclusive. That's a very samurai heavy. It feels like at least in its style. It's the third one already for Sony, when we know that there's a Ghost of Tsushima sequel coming, and we got Rise of the Ronin at a state of play last year by Team Ninja. So it's like,
at least this one seems a lot more fantasy oriented, so it should still hit its right.
Exactly.
Niche.
It's like, it's basically they're all baseline samurai games, and this one has like the more fantastical grotesqueness to it that differentiates it. And no date for this, so probably 2024 and 2025. And then the game afterwards is a game by Giant Squid, the games that made Apsu and The Pathless, and also the art director from Journey, called Sword of the Sea.
I was gonna say, I kind of liked Abzu. I finished Journey, but I didn't connect with it the same way a lot of people did. But this one looks awesome.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This feels like a mix of everything. It feels like a mix of everything because it has the art style of Journey, but like the movement they learned with the Pathless, because the Pathless was
weird
so
fish water stuff of Abzu as well. It has a great sense of momentum, fantastic art direction. So I'm definitely gonna pick that one up.
And I will say, like, and real quick with this one, like, the one thing I do appreciate about the showcase is that it felt like Sony was recommitting a little bit more to indies after they have it felt like indies had fallen down on the wayside for them. It felt like they were more focusing on the games that the Phantom Blade looked like, the more high budget, high quality, and Journey was a very defining game on the PS3, especially they re-released it on PS4. Back then was like one of the first big statements of indie games or smaller games can be Game of the Year contenders. They don't have to be like the $60 or bust. And the games in that style afterwards didn't hit the same way, but I'm glad that they're still at it. This looks in a bigger scale than other times. So no date on that one, but they say that it's coming to PS5. The Talos Principle, did you ever play that one?
I didn't.
Me neither. I heard it's like a puzzle game. So the architecture, part of me, like, you probably felt this. Didn't it look very High Republic to you? Like just based on like what we just played Survivor.
I wasn't sure what I was really looking at. It was another one of those like machine are people kind of game, and I don't want it to sound weird, but it sounds like I'm a little tired of that trope a little.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, there's literally about to be a new movie coming out with exactly that same principle, basically.
A game you enjoyed, Detroit Become Human, also dealt with that.
Exactly. And I'm even like, I think the only reason I loved that game was because of the very specific example of
the communal experience for the choices.
The absolute communal. And I will swear by that experience, but I'm realizing that game has a lot of issues.
Yep. So they didn't show the gameplay of this. It was just a reveal, and it was like, yeah, the Talos Principle 2, what's past is prologue, coming 2023 to PS5 this year. So it's like cool for people that love that. That's gonna it looked visually cool because it's doing Unreal Engine 5. Cool that we're seeing more of that engine now being used, because we still haven't seen a full game being built on that. Crazy enough, Jedi Survivor had a sequence that felt like the Unreal Engine 5, like our favorite sequence from that game halfway through, but it was made in Unreal Engine 4. So we still haven't seen that promise of that chick that was flying through like the big gaps and everything was like collapsing on it. Do you remember that demo? From Unreal Engine 5, there was like, is this Tomb Raider? But it's not. It's just a tech demo. Yeah. So we haven't. Yeah, you're having the typical smooth brain like vacuum trying to access the memory that I always make fun of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I definitely remember now.
Yeah. So it feels like we're slowly kind of getting games that are gonna look like that, but we're still not there. So then we got the next game from the creators of Grease, a game that I haven't played. I've heard a few good things. This is a game that looked cute. I don't know what the game is. It looks like it may be like a side scroller. It almost felt like
the same setup as Ori.
Yeah, with the death of something, and like maybe has potential revival. So
it felt like it would be, and if it's from the people that made Grease, it's probably absolutely that kind of style. It's like hand-drawn animation, which is like actually hand-drawn, not just looks like it.
Yeah. And it looks beautiful. Is the kind of thing like just like the Giant Squid Game? Like some of these screenshots that I'm seeing here, where we're looking at the Wario 64 like thread. I would be down to like just grab them and screen cap them to put them in my monitor.
It's gorgeous.
The game's called Neva, which in Spanish that's like snow, like snowing. Oh. But this is definitely not a Spanish game. It's coming in 2024 and for PS5, obviously. Then we got into like a bit of like some quick shots of a couple cutesy little indie games. This one, the name, like, I love it because of the puns. Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean. I was like, yeah, I'll give it to you. It was like,
if I was a kid that like, this seems like that one cult following Spyro style game back from like the PS1 era. Like if it was attached to a big IP, people would have gone nuts, which is just such a double standard because I feel like this is a perfectly good looking game, and I know for a fact I'm never gonna touch it.
Yeah, unless they give it to us on a subscription. Which
exactly,
I was talking with Sebastian about this. What if like the presence of indie games here now is because now that Sony has PlayStation Extra and Premium, now they have like a way to, even though
love that.
Yeah, even though they didn't announce any of these games as explicitly launching on PS Extra, but like from Tchia to Stray and at least those are the two big ones. Reason was like the big indies that they promoted in their showcases that then they're giving to you on a subscription. It feels like they've set the template, and maybe that's how they're attracting indies again, because Xbox that's how they've been able to court indies, because they're like, we're gonna give exposure, we're gonna give you the Game Pass bag, here's all the like upfront money, that let us put you in the service. And some of them, that's how they like get exposure in such an overcrowded market. So maybe that's why we're getting these kinds of games, and better that they're getting that now, because I would have hated for PlayStation to have just become the blockbuster machine. Even though those are the games that we usually play most there, like just Jedi Survivor last month and Final Fantasy 16 pretty soon. Those are games that are in that mold. I always like for an ecosystem to feel varied, and Cat Quest felt like that. Then another game that was like interesting looking, that it was like, oh yeah, let's do Splatoon, but not really. Like a new game by Square Enix called Foam Stars. It feels like a 4v4 like shooter, arena shooter.
It's just Splatoon.
It's just basically Splatoon, but instead of using paint, you're using foam. It's strange seeing this kind of game here.
It's funny because there's a element of it, I feel like this was a really good attempt. Like the character designs are pretty good. I like the idea of the foam, especially with it creating platforming opportunities. However, there is something very important with somebody called like screen clarity. And this game has terrible levels of that. I mean, look at some of these screenshots.
Oh yes, if you go to the water system,
actually going on.
Yeah, there's the one where you said the character uses like shooting like the light blue one, and it's just a mix of like light blue and pink. Oh, so there's like no. It's messy.
At least like Splatoon uses very vibrant contrasting colors. This is like pastel at best, and I don't know if it's gonna do anything.
Yes, if it's free to play, maybe. So because it's like
You get a few people.
Yeah, it has an air of Knockout City to it also, and Knockout City, great game that suffered for like hitting the side guys with the worst possible business model, and they became free to play way too late, and then it's now shutting down, which is sad because it was a good game. So,
it was really fun. I legitimately had some fun with my friends on it. But I mean, shoot, just look at Destruction All Stars.
Yeah, and that one was a disaster because it was sold originally. It had no pre-orders, and then they had to reshift it as a PS Plus game, and then it turned out it wasn't good. And also, Destruction All Stars, compared to at least Foam Stars, Destruction All Stars looked way more generic. At the very least, the pastels of this helps sugarcoat the Overwatchy slash Fortnite aesthetic that has become like so ubiquitous now. So it has that going for it. Will it be practical? I don't know. But it was interesting that this game was there. And again, like just keeping kind of like my train rolling of like, it's a different looking game at least. Not for me, but I'm glad it's there. Hoping for the best, depending on what business model Square Enix pulls on that. If they do a Babylon's Fall like full price live service game, that thing is DOA. So then we got another look at the Plucky Squire, which is like kind of like this coloring book style like platformer that was announced at a Nintendo Direct, if I remember.
Now this one looks good. I'll be honest.
Oh yeah, it's such a cool idea, like that, like being able to like get out of the coloring book and inside and having those kind of Mario style adventures. It's like, yeah. This definitely feels more like a Switch game to me in a way, but I'm glad that it's gonna be on PlayStation and it's coming out this year.
It's a great Switch game that I'm glad isn't just on the Switch.
Yeah, because we actually had that conversation today in chat of like, it's like we're loving Zelda, but there's something about the Switch hardware that, like, unless it's like a really compelling game that you want to play there, you just don't want to be engaging in that ecosystem compared to the other ones. The game has to be real special, in this case Tears of the Kingdom. So, and then we got a look at Teardown, which is this apparently is this like Minecraft style construction game that's like
you didn't know about Teardown?
Yeah, I didn't know about it until this one. It's like a big game on Steam.
Clips of it. It's basically, imagine like Payday 2, except instead of enemies you could just literally destroy everything. But there's like just break things normally, but there's also modes where it's like, oh, there's a thing in the place, you have to get in and get out as fast as possible, and like your goal is to make it through either the wall, the window, whatever's the fastest method. And it's really addicting to look at, and I wish I had an opportunity to play it. Now I do, because it's going to be on PS5.
Yeah, and this is one of the games that a lot of people were really happy to see that it was actually making it outside of PC. Again, like there's something about some of these big games that are in the PC ecosystem that I know are there that just don't register for me. Like, for example, Escape from Tarkov is another one that now extraction shooters are slowly making its way into more things, and we're going to talk about a little bit about one in particular that got announced here. So, but yeah, for people that were excited that Turtle's like expanding its horizons, like, yeah, it's coming this year. Then we got a very extended trailer that started like in nature. Then you saw ants, and then the ant was like following,
like
and
a
then
parrot,
and
like it was like a frog, and then a parrot.
The ants go to the frog, and then a parrot like grabs the frog, and then the parrot goes into like a lake that then it's an alligator that bites it,
or an alligator tries to fight a snake. I don't know.
And then we're like, what the heck is this? I remember when I was with Sebastian, we're like, is this Ark? Because at first, like, is this a new version of Grounded? But I was like, no, Grounded is like Xbox exclusive, so no, it's not that. And then you see the silhouette, I was like, I'll say this. I had heard the leaks that this was coming this year. Like, that it was coming to the showcase. And I was like, okay, let's see if it happens. And it did. It was like, we talked about this game back in 2021, Paul, thanks to our guys at BGC. Metal Gear Solid is coming back with the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Not called Metal Gear Solid 3, it's called Metal Gear Solid Delta. They put a triangle, and then they tweeted about it being like, it's called Delta because it's kind of like a reimagining but keeping it the same or something like that.
Somebody talked about the possibility that they're not calling it 3 because they're thinking of doing a chronological remake for each of the games. And that would make a lot of sense. You could just call it whatever Greek symbol you wanted, really.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell, I sent a thing in our message. I don't know if you saw it. They confirmed, in fact, that the original voice cast is back.
Yeah, all of it, because they're using all
So happy.
they're using all the dialogue, so that makes sense why they're calling it Delta, because it's like they're gonna like update it, but they're gonna keep it as close to the original as possible. And I'll say Metal Gear Solid 3 out of all of them has the best story. Like it's the one that's the most simple to follow.
If
like
you give me Metal Gear Solid 5 gameplay with the story of 3,
it will be
I am going to lose my mind.
Yes. And even if they keep the survival elements of like eating, but just being able to walk and crouch, and
you
have
get
better
dense,
aiming,
like jungle environments. Like the rainforest of Metal Gear Solid 5 was my favorite, probably.
Yeah, when you're in Africa,
out of all that, yeah. But it's like so much of it is so barren. Like they clearly started to run out of stuff to do in there. Afghanistan's clearly much more fleshed out. But like if they had kept that like deep jungle feel, oh my goodness. And this is like, you know, they're going to use the Fox engine, they're going to use all of the stuff, the resources that they've already got. It's like, you know what it's going to be like, and that's what makes me so excited.
And this is coming to PS5, not a PS5 exclusive though, so it's like when another Konami game, Silent Hill 2, got announced as a PS5 exclusive, everyone was, the grapevine was saying that Sony had like basically like cut all these like Konami IP to be like Sony exclusives. But they immediately announced that this is also coming to Xbox. So Xbox people are not going to miss out on that, which I'll say that's good for them, because this is a franchise that they definitely need to experience. But I'll say this, like, to be fair to the Xbox people and the Xbox One PS4 generation, they were the ones that had Metal Gear. PS4 like owners were left up in the wild, because other than the PS Now collections, which is a horrible way to play those games, they had native backwards compatibility to the HD collection for Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 and Peace Walker. So, and speaking of that, like, I was like, this is cool. The moment where I popped was when then we heard the codec sign, and then immediately a splash image that said Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1.
Volume 1.
So it means, so in this volume we get Metal Gear 1 finally available outside PS3, PS1 backwards compatibility. Metal Gear Solid 2.
It's the original version, confirmed not to be Twin Snakes.
Yeah, it's like the original Polygon one, which I'll say, it looks dated. When you play it on its terms, it's still really fun to play.
I think so too. Yes, especially going back to Metal Gear Solid 2 and realizing it's like those games aged so much better than you think they did. It's only like the weird controls before the like homogenization of what controllers should be laid out as. So you get past that, you're good. But
this is like a good play, because this is like the same way I felt about the Resident Evil, about what happened with Resident Evil 4. The way, obviously, we got the remake, it turned out really excellent, but there's still something about the original that is still perfectly playable, and like even with its like datedness, that for people that are purists, they still have access to that game in a modern platform. So I'm glad that Konami's following on that.
We have to thank all the Castlevania fans for buying the crap out of the Advanced Collection.
Absolutely.
Symphony of the Night. Just proving time and again that if they put out those old games, people are going to buy it. And that's why they were saving their baby for last with this one. This is their big money sink.
Yes, absolutely. And we're probably also going to get more Castlevania soon also. So it's like, it's so glad that Konami, like, they went away, they became pachinko machine era that was just putting Pro Evolution Soccer games that then became do you remember that disaster a free-to-play soccer game that had like people with no football physics? But it's like, at least in those collections, the Cowabunga collection was really great. The old Castlevania, like Symphony of the Night and the Rondo Blood one, and also the Advanced Collection one, that one's even better. It was like, oh, now they care. They put so much care for this ones. And now then Contra also came back. They put original Castlevania games. It's like, what I like is that they're putting these old games like available in modern hardware, because now we know that they're being preserved. Just the existence of these things in these machines. And now it's like, the countdown's here. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2 is gonna give us Metal Gear Solid 4. That game will finally be removed from the shackles of the PlayStation 3. And then
I was reminded. Oh yeah, go ahead.
And then when that happens, I'm gonna take stock of what else is missing, and then I'm gonna do a Viking funeral for my PS3 because I can't wait to like disconnect it because it's like I literally still have it in because there are so many games that are still like so trapped there. So
I was reminded how much I enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 4 because I think I played through the entirety of it like 3 times.
oh, I played it many times also.
So I joined in very late. Yeah. I was so late to that party. But like when I finally finished it, that was the one where I think I've talked about. I finished the game at like 11:30.
Yeah, and you kept going with the cutscenes.
I did not go to bed until about like 1:30 in the morning for the last cutscene. It took 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours of like an extended epilogue that basically tied the entire series together.
It was so great, but I was so tired. Anyway, yeah, it's just, oh my gosh, like how happy I am that we're getting Metal Gear Solid 1 coming. We're getting the Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, original cast. It's going to have that gameplay. And now I just can't wait for Volume 2 where we get Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 4. Who knows? Maybe we'll get portable ops.
Yeah, because I'm like,
that would be
because if they're doing a master collection, because if they're doing a master collection, do you will want to like put more games? And I was like, technically, you're running out. So,
it is more canon than a lot of other things in the Metal Gear Solid universe. Yeah.
Technically,
that's where you started.
Yeah, technically they could do Volume 2, that is 4, Peace Walker, and 5. Like, if they want collections to be 3 and 3, it could work.
That's true.
And even though 5 is currently playable, maybe this could be like, now this is PS5, this is the PS5 and Xbox. I'll have to double check. I don't think the Master Collection is actually coming to everything, but I will have to double check on that one. So
that's true.
So and this one is coming this year.
Yeah, autumn of this year. That is. Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yes.
I have something else to be excited for, at least for the after this year with Metal Gear Solid 3, but. We need to keep moving because otherwise I'm just going to keep gushing.
I know,
this.
But I will say this was this was halfway through the show. This is when I popped. This is the moment that I had my Metroid Prime remastered treatment, and that's the thing. Like when old franchises you love and you know and love come back, that is like the very definition of like what could get you hyped more than anything else. So that there was even though it wasn't a surprise, it's just like the hype of like, thank God it's real. Thank God one of my other franchises is like now that all the Final Fantasies like now available now, like Resident Evils are like all back, like all these like classic Japanese centric franchises that were big in the West. Is like Metal Gear was like the last holdout. So all of that is here now. So Nintendo, you're only missing me with Super Mario Galaxy 2 and Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. You're like, we're getting this close to having like all my beloveds from my past to be like in modern times going into the future. But after that, and there's my dad. Then we got this game that was like a primitive game that not quite Horizon, but it was like a huge smorgasbord that had big Breath of the Wild style. Like I know the kid was using like a glider that looked exactly like that, and he was like collecting materials from like this beast that reminded me of me riding the dragons over and Tears of the Kingdom.
It was had called, like a weird Shadow of the Colossus meets also Breath of the Wild.
Which is so funny because those games are like intrinsically tied like in spirit.
Very ironic.
Yeah, so it's called Towers of Agas, but this was like what I was telling our buddy Sebastian. Is like, man, there's your I love your headset, like the weird noise it makes. It's like this is the kind of games I was like, you're gonna see people are inspired by Breath of the Wild but are not like carbon copying it.
Right. It's like, and I think that there's a bit of a missed opportunity for some people like that follow Sebastian's line of thought, where it's like, this is clearly taking that model and really building it out, as opposed to something like Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, that did it halfway through.
It's just like it was decent, but it was very clearly a cash grab on that one. But honestly, this looks pretty solid.
And at least it was gameplay. We actually were seeing like what a gameplay would look like. We were getting many CGI trailers in this thing. So yeah, that's coming in 2024 also for PS5. Then I would say we got through the I would call it the Time Waster, which was another trailer for Final Fantasy 16. I should have expected this because it's like we're so close.
I called it. If you remember, like they want to hit you with that final little zinger trailer for anybody who wasn't going to buy it previously.
I will say this: I didn't think this trailer work the same way like the state of play did. At least in getting me even more hyped. You know, kind of like that final push. I feel like that state of play was like such a great final push to be like, yeah, it's like we are more than selling you on this. This felt like just more of it. It was just like,
it's
yeah,
just more. I feel like it's a testament to this game that they're showing us so many different parts and scenes of this game, and I'm like, I have no idea when these things happen, how these things happen. Like, we're in for a treat as far as the plot twists and stuff, because I was like, we have plenty to look at here. It wasn't like Final Fantasy 15 where it felt like we were watching the same. Like, didn't that happen about 10 minutes that way over here?
It always felt like,
background?
we were seeing the same thing over and over again with 15, especially with how long we had seen 15. And the previews came out this week. They were so glowing. In fact, that people were saying that this could be like the game, like one of the first ones that really challenges the throne of Tears of the Kingdom in the Game of the Year conversation. I'm like, how did I get what did I do to deserve this for this summer? This summer is insane. So that's actually, like, according to War 64, that was actually the halfway mark. So then after that, we finally got Alan Wake 2. We had that game already been announced 2 years ago, and this was the first time we looked at what this game actually looks. The step up from the original, like, just visually, is insane. I'll say it's like this sold me more, and I'll say like the way Alan Wake looked at first in this session, we're like, is that Baba Yaga? You mean John Wick?
For real, like, I saw like the first one they showed. I thought it was a screenshot from John Wick 4, and I thought, like, what, are they doing some kind of cross promotion? What's going on here? And then I realized, oh, it's Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, when they said Remedy, I was like, yeah, there it is. It's like it's Alan Wake. And in the upper right corner of like the second set of images here, like there's like this guy with like a suit. That game is that character is modeled by after the director for Remedy, called Sam Lake. That is in all Remedy games, so they put him in there. So it's so funny.
Alan Wake and Sam Lake.
I know. And apparently you get to play as a female character also, other than Alan Wake. Yeah,
and, I'm not sure. Like, are you also going to play as Alan Wake at all, or is he like a side dude?
No, if you see, then like, if you go further in the third set in like the bottom left, bottom left, you see him there. So I guess it's two characters.
Okay, so I mean, I'm totally down for whatever it is. I definitely missed the boat on playing the first game, because looking back on it, I don't think I could sit through playing it. I barely did for Evil Within 1, and I still didn't quite finish that game. So
to me, like, why I missed it was that it came out the same day as Red Dead Redemption back in 2010. And then revisiting it years later, it's like, it's good, but it's like, it's one of those games that it's good, but they have a hard time like keeping you glued in. Like, compared to something like Control for me, that really kept me glued in like that full week that I played it. I'm really curious to see now how they reconnect to Control, because obviously the Control DLC connected to Alan Wake, like the last of that piece DLC that it still didn't play. So excited for that. Then shockingly, Assassin's Creed Mirage showed up here, and this is the first time we saw this game. It's crazy that it's like they had an entire damn showcase last year, the one that I reacted by myself. That was just the Ubisoft Forward and talking about the anniversary of Assassin's Creed, and they didn't show a single lick of gameplay. Looking at it, I am seeing Assassin's Creed Origins again.
A lot of Assassin's Creed 1 energy, which I am legitimately appreciative for.
But with the mechanics of the new one.
You said there's no gameplay of it? I could have sworn we had several...
Not before this. This is the first time they actually showed gameplay.
My bad. Okay.
Yeah, so this is the first time we actually saw what this game looked like. We saw CG trailers. We saw the art book that has like a really cool look of Basim with like the blade coming like to the side. I was like, oh yeah, it's like they had been saying the right things. This is gonna be a tighter game. It's going back to the old school style of, at least focusing on the tenets of the old games, but clearly it's still playing like the new ones. It has it looks like it has the crouch walk and some of the same animation style and
a lot of smoothness for those animations.
Yeah, and if they're really making a stealth focus, I hope stealth works way better than Valhalla. Valhalla, somehow the stealth in that game is like they never fixed it. I hope they really put the work in that one. That's coming now officially in October 12th, which is what we read last week with the leaks. Those leaks turned out to be true. And it's $50.
I don't think there's anything. Ooh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's $50. So
praise the Lord. I am going to go nuts because, I mean, even at the very bare minimum, it's still going to have more than Assassin's Creed 1 was available. More playtime is that, because
Yeah.
I don't think Ubisoft has a restrictive bone in their body
Mhm.
to hold back.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be exactly what we've always wanted out of it. I mean,
Yeah.
the only question is execution.
Yeah, I hope they execute because Ace, not only Assassin's Creed, because technically Valhalla was a win for them. It's all a lot of people. It's all a lot of copies. There's a lot of people that like it, but there's also a big contingency that's so against it because of how bloated it was, how long it was. Like how many years you played it, you still haven't beat it. I managed to beat it after so many hours last year, and I still enjoyed it. But the DLC, doing it immediately afterwards, really soured me on it. And this is the longest we've gotten from a mainline entry. Like, it's crazy. It's been like 3 years since Valhalla came out. So, and Ubisoft is in such dire straits. I hope this is a win for them. I hope this sells a ton. So it shows them that there's hunger for the old style. So, especially if you give it time to breathe. So this is coming out October 12th, and we didn't read this. Alan Wake is coming on October 17th. So October is finally taking shape. So, Revenant Hill, this game that had like a cute cat that looked like Night in the Woods. If you remember that game from back in the day.
I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it was like Night in the Woods too, but then I remembered the creator of Night in the Woods committed suicide. So I was
there was a lot of sketchy stuff going on apparently.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was really into that series right as that happened.
Yeah. Let's not dwell on that. It's like, to me, it's like just another cutesy one. So I was like, yeah, moving on. So Grand Blue, we got a game called Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which is like, if I'm not mistaken, because I saw you texted this and I didn't confirm this when I recorded with Sebastian. Grand Blue is a fighting game, right? That is like
it is normally like a heavy Tales of series.
So it is an RPG style.
RPG.
Okay. Yeah.
The fighting game was just
Blaze
taking
Blue.
the characters from that.
Blaze Blue is the fighting game. Yeah.
They did make now I'm saying I'm wrong. The Grand Blue Fantasy Versus was a fighting game that was made.
That's the one that I was thinking.
Fantastically drawn. Yeah. So that was a spin-off. It wasn't like that's what they normally are. This time, almost taking a step out of like, I don't want to say Hyrule Warriors because this feels a lot bigger in scope than that, because we have screenshots of them walking around like an actual open world, but it's very clearly like a lot of hack and slash going on. They're really trying to shift focus for their IP, and honestly, I respect it. Yeah,
it felt like we said it with Sebastian in his show. It's like it felt like we're seeing a Dragon Age style like companionship mixed with like DMC combat. That's at least how it looked. So, and it's available on this winter. So the Crisis Core time period.
Yeah.
And theoretically Rebirth time period, because that was also a winter game.
That is true. So, I mean, I have to keep remembering that winter can also mean all the way into March. So we'll
early
see,
March,
early
March.
They said 2023 winter, so we know it's going to be December then.
Exactly. So even though when they announced Crisis Core, like when Square Enix did that, they only said winter. Actually, they said winter 2022. So it was So now I remember. So, and then another quote unquote time waster for me, another look at Street Fighter 6. I'll say this: like, they already had a tech test. They had an open beta last weekend that's been successful. Fighting game fans are going to be eating good now that Street Fighter's here, and Mortal Kombat 1 was announced last week. It's like, this was another one that, looking back, now that we know what the showcase was, especially with the things that didn't happen, I'm like, do we really needed to see this? But PlayStation and Capcom are like this. They're like they're really well tied to the hip, so it makes sense. Like, I didn't care for this trailer personally. So did you?
I didn't care as much. I did like the robustness of seeing all of the cutscenes that your created character is going to be in, to really nail home that Maximilian Dude, once again, was the guy that talked about how important that single player mode is going to be.
Yeah.
Because that is what most people play these games for. And it's only after getting really good at the single player that people always go over to multiplayer to really try themselves. Yeah. And all of the games that die don't have a good single player tied to it. Just look at Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. The opposite. Mortal Kombat single player is amazing.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like, okay, they're the ones that do single player. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Right. And that's why people keep playing it, because the single player is so good it made them continue to get good at the game long enough to be able to play it. And then you compare that to something like Tekken's storyline.
Yeah, it used to have a good one. Like, I think Tekken 7 was good, if I remember.
It was good, but it jumped through and then had this weird difficulty spike right in the middle of the game where you fight Akuma. And you fight as a character that I don't think you've played up until then. So it's like just terrible pacing and like barely attached storyline. It's weird and convoluted. Anyway, I appreciate that this is one big story for your character.
Yeah, they're fixing what they like got so wrong with Street Fighter 5. They focused so much on the competitive scene with 5.
Yeah.
And then they were gonna patch in single player afterwards, and it wasn't very good. So it was like Street Fighter 5 in general, it ended up being good at the end, but it was like a miss for the series. So 6 at the very least is like getting all of those things in from the start, from the jump. So afterwards, we got this game called Ultros, which is another Metroidvania that's very cute looking. The Metroidvania genre is like at its core, like so similar. It's very few things that makes them stand out from the pack, and it's always the thing that stands out from the pack is the art style. And this art style is like, Sebastian said it was like Rick and Morty meets Guacamelee.
So... I hate that. I kind of agree with that. I hate that. Let's say it looks like Midnight Gospel. Yeah,
I got I can play any Metroidvania you can throw at me. I've been taking a little break from that genre for a little bit after 2021, but down for another one. It's just like you just look like another one of those. So it's like good that it was here. Then we got Tower of Fantasy. So
the biggest sleep. This whole thing.
Yeah, from
just another Genshin clone, whatever it is. They're so big now. They're making clones of their own games under the same banner. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so
but some people swear by those.
Yeah, big sleep for me. When we saw the tidally skin clad people, I was like, Paul Combust mode on.
It's like, biggest roll of my eyes. All right, let's go.
Yeah. Now this game looked cool because I'm shocked that we were already seeing gameplay of it, and that was Dragon's Dogma 2, which last year was announced just with like the developer saying it was coming. So it made him seem like that game was just starting development, but this looked, even though it didn't have a date, it looks
polished as crap.
Again, the ARIA engine, they do something. That engine is so versatile. So
I'm saying,
and this is the DMC people. The DMC director is making this game because he did the original. Also.
Dragon's Dogma had such a cool approach to platforming that it looks like it's going to be generic as crap JRPG stuff, but the fact that like they did you can grab onto a lot of stuff that you don't think you can before Breath of the Wild did, where you could jump on just about any part. Like you could Shadow the Colossus, most of the enemies, which was so cool. The fact that you could make your playable character available as an NPC to your friends was really cool. It was such a neat concept. I wish I'd been able to play more of it. I got it on PS3 like right at the end of its life cycle. Yeah,
2012, 2013 probably. Did you get the Dark Horizon?
I think that was actually the one I played.
Yeah, so because
that the original.
Yeah, that came out immediately after, and that's the one that's now currently available on backwards compatibility if you have a PS4 and even an Xbox. So I'm glad it's chucking along. Again, Capcom is at the top of their game. Like they released one of the best games of the year this year with Resident Evil 4, which feels like a long time ago, even though it was only 2 months ago. This is just how packed this like release period has just been this year. But it's like they are per capita one of the most high quality like publishers that is consistently hitting, and
they're just killing it at every opportunity.
And we got at least an idea of like what the gameplay is already looking like this one. So not with full HUD or anything, but at least it's giving us an idea. So yep, Dragon's Dogma was shown, no date, but at least we saw it. At least if we had to see a Capcom thing, like I'm glad that at least they saved a new thing for this instead of us seeing Street Fighter again. So
true.
So yeah, and then we went into the dreaded VR block, which I knew was coming when we saw the Sony reports last 2 days ago that said that PSVR 2 is actually like sold more than PSVR 1 in the same time period, after we had heard erroneous reports from Bloomberg saying the opposite. So it's like
honestly, I'm kind of glad because it's kind of like one of those good for them. Everybody that I've ever seen buy just about any VR thing has found some reason to like it. There's always like a series of different games, and it always feels like there's more and more games coming out that are like, wow, that's actually kind of cool. Hang on a second. That makes me want to rethink all this. And then I look at the price tag and I go, not today.
Yeah, it's a problem. The price tag's always been like the big barrier. And PSVR 1 eventually, like the holiday of 2018, got at the right price. 190, you could get it for 199. That felt really good. The thing is that I had an inkling that I was like, we were getting like close to like the end of the supply of games for that thing, and my instincts turned out right. So I didn't quite bite for that one. And I once tried it and it gave me a headache. So it was like the technology of the PSVR original wasn't just that great. I felt Oculus was better. But at least I've heard really great things about the hardware of the VR2. So if it's selling at least like better than the other one, that's good. Even though like Sony was like so bullish at producing 2 million of those things and they've only sold like 600,000. So it's still selling better, but it's like it's not quick. It's not like what the PS5 is doing. It's just selling stratospherically now that it's like available. But because of that, we know that in any of these showcases, we have to get through a block that is of no interest to us, but at least it's there for the people that are on the thing. So blasting through this real quick, Five Nights at Freddy's Help 102 coming late 2023. So more Five Nights at Freddy's. We got Resident Evil 4. We got they showed us the opening section of that game, and we knew that PSVR VR mode was coming to this. That's came with the announcement when we saw RE4 revealed,
and it looks pretty good. People are gonna make some crazy videos about it, I tell you.
Oh yeah, especially seeing like that you're able to still do the parry on VR. Village VR I heard works excellent, and that was a free thing if you own Village. So they said no release date, so I was like, you already told us it was happening. If you were showing it here, at least you could have given us a window for a game that's one of the bigger games of this year. Then we got Arizona Sunshine 2 that's out in 2023, another zombie game, like Sony first person, like zombie first person. I didn't even know
there was an Arizona Sunshine 1.
Me neither. So I was like, yep, another one of those. Moving on. Crossfire Sierra Squad. So it's like, yeah, Crossfire X was a complete disaster last year. But I guess the Smilegate is still like trucking along with that franchise because, to be fair, his Crossfire X specifically in the campaign was a disaster. But Crossfire, like as a franchise that's like very big in Korea, that's still kept trucking along, and they made a VR game that reminds me of Bravo Team, another VR game from.
It looks really good. It looks like exactly like Call of Duty meets VR. That it's just like turn your brain off. It looks vaguely realistic. Just go through and gun down everything. Yeah.
And then afterwards, we got another look at Synapse. This is one of the VR games that we saw at the State of Play that had Suicide Squad, the one that we reacted to with Sebastian 2 months ago. That one didn't have a date, and we didn't quite see as much gameplay as they showed with this one. And this definitely has more of a super hot vibe to it, and it would be with like force powers, I would call it. So it's another shooting gallery. It looks fine for everyone that has, and now you know that you have a game for July if you're in VR too. The important one that VR2 was missing at launch was Beat Saber. So they announced Beat Saber is coming to PSVR 2, the greatest workout game of all time.
It is a seizure waiting to happen, but I'm really glad it exists, and I'm glad that people have figured out how to mod it so that you can put YouTube videos and bootlegged soundtracks on it.
Oh yeah, and then for the people that are not modding it, they announced that there's a Queen DLC. So if you want to dance to Bohemian Rhapsody or We Are Champions, We Will Rock You. We Will Rock You is like you can buy that DLC whenever it shows up there. Actually, you can buy the music pack now. They didn't make it clear that Beat Saber was already available today, but if you can buy the pack, I guess it is. So then we move on to this would have been the block where technically this is when we should be getting the PlayStation if you follow the 2021 showcase, they saved the quote unquote best for last, and with that they started us with a very interesting mix of colors and worms and a broken planet, and then we saw that it had the Bungie logo, and then it finally hit that is like, oh crap, so they're actually doing it 10 years after the reveal of Destiny. They're finally ready to unveil their new game, which is technically an old franchise, and that's Marathon. So, and Marathon is like, they couldn't be doing as much of like a complete like 180 of like what Marathon was with what they're doing with the shooter. this is going to be an extraction shooter. And based on the description that Bungie put out in a press release and this week at Bungie, it feels like this is Gambit the game. A game where you're going to be in maps fighting enemies while also fending off players. As you're like, yeah, so I'll say this, extraction shooters, I tried DMC on Modern Warfare. That was like my first legit, okay, an extraction shooter mode has been put in a shooter that I buy year in and year out. Let me try it. I barely played DMC. In fact, people blame DMC for ruining the feel of Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone. So that's a snooze bad. Bungie has a thing that the way their games feel is always so attractive and so good, and their art direction is just so stellar that I bet this is going to be free to play. I would hope it is. I wouldn't mind trying it. This is where the PvP team for Destiny went. For everyone that keeps crying that PvP has always been neglected, this is why. That team went.
It's really funny that they decided to make this whole thing instead of just making an extraction mode in Destiny.
Yeah, but I feel like at that point they had already thrown the towel. Like Destiny's just a looter shooter with that many million permutations, just never gonna be balanced. It might as well like do something from scratch and anchor back to an old franchise. The good thing of this, though, even though it's been announced, is that Destiny is still not going to be neglected by them. It's like they're still like this is the beginning of them becoming a multi-game studio. That's why they scaled up. That's why Bungie let themselves be bought by PlayStation, because they were going to get an influx of cash to be able to do that. Become Riot, like how they have League of Legends, they have Valorant, they have all those things. And we got a shocking first look at Destiny 2: The Final Shape, which
shocking.
Yeah, because I was not expecting that, because it's like the season literally came out the day before, like the new one, Season of the Deep, that I still haven't even played because I'm still on Tears of the Kingdom world. Yep. But this was basically just the biggest thing about this show with this is the fact that Kate Six is back, the character they killed off in Forsaken 5 years ago. That's crazy. It's been that long, and they brought him back, and they brought Nathan Fillion back. That was like a big deal because in Forsaken they had Nolan North voice him, so it's like, oh, they got him back. So if they actually got him back, that means that Kate said they found a way for Kate Six to be back for like the end of this Light and Darkness saga. A showcase is coming on August 22, literally a day before it was last year. So now we know this is what I want, Sony. Just give us a time frame where we can always expect your showcases at least. Because there's a worth in that consistency, and to Bungie's credit, they have now gone 3 years in a row of hitting the exact same showcase time. And so August 22nd, they're gonna reveal the final shape, and they mentioned the future of Destiny 2, so more may be coming. I'm interested because right now the state of Destiny is not good from a technical sense. Then afterwards you want to say something?
Yeah, it's just it's a shame that we're getting this as like more on the back of the struggling donkey, as opposed to like new stuff, because I know no matter how cool this is, it's gonna struggle, and that kind of hurts, you know?
Yeah, the fact that it took 2.5 hours for reset this week to start a new one is like, is that how bad the code is going for that game? That is like the beginning of a season was that delayed. I still haven't touched it. The dungeon comes out tomorrow, so I may like jump in, do all the seasonal stuff that I didn't do to just kind of get a feel and maybe do that dungeon. But Zelda's still like my thing. But yeah, now we know when we may do a showcase reveal like we did last time, Paul, because those always tend to do good for us. So somehow
we'll see.
Yeah, I know it will be different because you have a different time frame now. So then we finally got the PlayStation Studios logo. It had not appeared at all throughout this whole time. So by that time I was like, oh, here we go. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for. So because at first I was like, okay, they structured this thing exactly like they did the 2021 one. So they gave us already the answers. Here's the hot cuisine. The first title we saw is one called Conquered by Firewalk, the developers that have former Bungie and Call of Duty developers in it. And it looks like it's gonna be a sci-fi thing, you assume, because of the pedigree as a shooter. I tell you, this is one of the worst reveal trailers I've ever seen. It tells you nothing, like absolutely nothing. Like both Haven and
characters, no nothing. It's just, I love the vibe of the colors and everything, but it's just a ship flying through space. You're looking through the stuff. There's a countdown, and then it cuts out. You see the name, and that's it. And I'm like, what is
Yeah,
it?
exactly. So us that are in the know, we know this is one of the live service games because they bought the studio specifically for that, just like Haven with Fair Games. But I tell you, it's like the for the actual first party stuff, the way they reveal this is like unacceptable. Like because these are like the centerpieces. They did the worst way to like they gave us so much meat over with the entrees, but the things that matter, the ones that is like the PlayStation Studios, this is what we got. I was like, oh no. And then immediately they followed it up with the movie trailer for Gran Turismo, which that trailer was already out, already seen. Like, I mean, it's not the exact same trailer, but it's like, why are you showing that here? And at least it wasn't that long. I had heard that people that screened the movie at CinemaCon say that it's a surprisingly good movie because it's like based on a real life story of like someone that played the GT Academy that took him to like real life racing. So that's a cool angle to make like a video game adaptation. But it's like, especially knowing that after that trailer we got Crying Jim show up and be like, thank you so much for joining us. Before we tell you about the final game, I want to talk to you about some hardware that we're releasing. And that's when we got the screen that we teased a month ago, that is basically the remote play thing that they slice the DualShock in half and put like a big ass screen in the middle, the Project Q that's coming out later this year. And they announced earbuds. So their own version of the AirPods. And I'm like, right. But to me, it's like, at that point, I was like, I cannot believe it's like, so they're really not gonna show us like for the thing that I care about. It's like they really had nothing, huh? Like, because Marathon, even though it's technically Sony's, like we know that Bungie's in a different scenario because all those games are multi-platform and all that. Even though it was here, and for some people it was a big deal. I was like, oh man. So I guess because at first I was like, so I guess it's Spider-Man at the end. And when that trailer started, it didn't look like it. I was like, is it faction? Are we actually gonna end with factions? And then we're like, no, it is Spider-Man. So this was like the one game that got a very extended look. It reminded me of when they did the helicopter demo back at E3 2017. That closed out that E3. So give me your quick thoughts on this showcase for Spider-Man, Paul.
All right, so I'll be honest, even from the start, where they kind of faked everyone out, like all the reactions I've been watching are people like, what the crap is this? Like, this freaking sucks. It's not Spider-Man, it's just another freaking muscly dude with an undercut. And then some people were like, oh, it's Kraven the Hunter. It's Kraven the Hunter. Oh, shoot, whatever. And then, like, of course, the real Kraven the Hunter shows up behind him, snaps the dude's neck, and you're like, they're already freaking out. They're like, oh, shoot, it is Spider-Man. Cutting out to all of the actual stuff, cutting right into gameplay after a quick little cinematic moment. Black suit Spider-Man
immediately
killing it. Literally, I'm pretty sure, because there's no way any of those people survived that fight.
Yeah.
Spider-Man kicked that one dude in the nuts about 26 times in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I rewatched it with like higher audio. I watched it with one dude reacting with two of his buddies, and he's like excitable black Californian guy, so he's like hyped as crap. And that really helped me with my energy levels this whole time because I was feeling it the entire time. Super cool examples of everything. Switching to Miles, I want to see how the switch between
the switch is like was like straight out of GTA. That was like the GTA 5 but even quicker.
Because you didn't have to slow time, you didn't have to load. It was just press squared or circle to switch with Miles, and immediately you were in a different character, which is completely different gameplay wise. So
showing us they added the wing suits, which it definitely was like it was showing like that's where you could see like where the PS5 came into being, like why this is just a PS5 game when they're doing the wingsuit thing, because back in 2019 when they demoed the PS5 technology to investors, they actually used Spider-Man, and the whole thing with the SSD was that they were always going to keep high levels of detail as you're blasting through a city. This was us seeing like them blasting through a city and maintaining a level of detail that there were some idiots saying that this looked worse than the last game. I'm like, you're out of your freaking mind if you feel that.
Just look at the weird slimy reflective texture on Spider-Man's body, and you But like
Yeah.
even when Miles was walking through that weird facility and there's like light going through pipes and stuff, it's
Yeah,
just
it's just stunning. It's like what you expect from a first party, like single player, like high quality games. Like it definitely looked like that. Like what the
yeah.
sequel to that game that was already really great looking would look like. It's like not a giant leap, but it's still a step up. And seeing like the extended like Uncharted style like sequence, as he's pursuing like the jet skis, and then it switched between Spider-Man's, and then there's like this one that looked like a Crash Bandicoot, but it was like the camera was coming here while like Miles was like using the web swing as like he was like surfing. And then
Yeah.
and someone like did something that made me appreciate this more is the fact that they were able to transition straight into like an Uncharted style set piece, knowing that they're rendering so much in like an open world. It makes it seem like this is a linear game when it's not. So that's something that when I started seeing some devs pointing that out, it made me appreciate it. Because I'll say this, like when I had a stick in the mud, I'll be perfectly honest, just knowing that this was the end of the showcase, because I was like, man, I came in to see what else I could see. I knew I was getting this, because of course we were gonna get this if they needed to show this game, if it was gonna come out this year. And just knowing that it didn't get out, it was like it muted my excitement. And then I tried like rewatching it, and I think this is something that for a first look at gameplay, this was a better first impression to me for a sequel than the first time we saw God of War Ragnarok back at the 2021 showcase. And there's my dog, like always. So yeah, because I remember it's like me that I love God of War so much, and seeing that I was like, I didn't walk away like feeling like, oh my god, look at that. I was like, yeah, that's more of that. And even though this was better, part of me is like, I am not like goosebumps, like, oh my god, I can't wait for this. Like I'm not feeling that, but I'm like, I can't wait to play it. It's like this was one of like my top 5 most anticipated games, and it looks like that. But and I'll say definitely you can arguably this is the highlight of the show.
Yeah.
Because this is the kind of thing you expected to see from a PlayStation showcase. The thing is that this being the only thing that was shown in this level made this whole thing then be like, oh, so we really got a misnomer. This was a state of play. So this really was a state of play, and I like the show and not a showcase. How Sony has come like to prepare us from point. They actually are not like, this is not a state of play. This is a showcase. So this propped it up, and this is why I say that this is where it all ended. I would say cowardice. They just pulled fall 2023. It was like, oh man, I think had they put a date on, that probably would have been like even cooler. But it's the fact that it's fall, I was like, oh, cowards. Like you could have had it. It's like you could have had like at least that tangible feeling of like, yeah, now we know when this is coming. But excellent looking is like, I hope that when I'm playing, I'm feeling the hype. I'll say this, especially like when we were talking about like the coolest action scene that we experienced this year with Jedi Survivor, probably what made that real special is that we never saw it. It came out of nowhere, and we got to experience it as we were playing the game. I feel like I'm having a harder time to get excited at seeing those things play out more than I am like when you're actually playing. So that was probably my mind has kind of shifted on how I like experiencing those moments instead of like seeing it beforehand. So that was probably it. But I know Sebastian was like over the moon with this game. So it's like, I know so many people are like, this is the kind of game that they want, and I feel happy for them. It's like, I'm excited. I'm just not goosebumps excited. So overall, like, I remember when I said when I graded this, when I recorded with him, I was like, yeah, this feels like a B to B minus show. And I feel like it depends on the angle you're looking at for. You're looking at it. It's like 34 games in like 70 minutes. That's like nothing to sneeze at. That's a lot of games. And a lot of them look really good. Like just looking back at the screenshots, I'm like, yeah, there's some good stuff here. It's like, it's when you look at it objectively, but there's like Sony shouldn't be surprised for people are giving this 2 out of 5s to like say calling it bad or the worst showcase they've ever done, because they brought this on themselves. They kept us waiting. When you keep us waiting more, like expectations inherently rise. Like, and we know that they're good at hype. That's why I love that's why to me every time they do a showcase, I knew it was going to be big deal, because I know they know the pump and circumstance. They know how to present games in a hype way that it's very different to the way Xbox presents. So, and even Nintendo knows how to like present things in hype. Like just look at that launch trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, which was like so. I tend to go back to it. I'm playing the game. I go back to it just to like feel that feeling. So So yeah, but yeah, a solid showcase that, yeah, it's the circumstances are gonna make it age not as well. Like it doesn't make it feel as well, and it has the potential to age worse if Sony doesn't say anything anymore for the rest of the year.
If this is my work here is done, and then everybody else going, but you haven't done anything, and then they just leave.
Yeah, because technically it's like Spider-Man that was announced 2 years ago, so it's like this was just us seeing finally the game. But it was like, imagine they had saved this for now. If they had not like revealed that game back then, had it just been Wolverine, and if the one more thing was like, no, now we're showing Spider-Man. This is the first look, and it's coming out this year.
Taken it that great, honestly.
No. Think about it this way: had we not known that Spider-Man existed, because we had only known about Wolverine,
we would have known that it would exist.
No, I mean, obviously we know it because it's obvious they're making a sequel, but we had not like it had been like officially like it's real. We know many things are being worked on, but it's like, imagine if this was like the first time. It's like, yeah, it's like the new Spider-Man is like, we're finally talking about it. It's called Spider-Man 2. Here's the gameplay, and it's coming out this year. Imagine if they had gone that triple punch, especially like starting like this happened, that it didn't look like Spider-Man at first. So it's like just thinking about it, it's like obviously that made when we got Wolverine, this and God of War last time, the triple punch that propped up that 2021 showcase. That's why, like, even though it was exciting we got to see the game, we came in to the showcase to be like, we knew that was happening. What else is coming? What else you got for me, Sony? So if they had at least one more game, like at least single player that was tangible on top of this, I feel everyone would still feel better, because it's still showing you the things that you care about Sony for. But that overall was like, because it felt like because I just remember just going through this, like I remember having some momentum going. I was like, yeah, it's like, yep, this looks cool. This looks cool. Like we still haven't seen PlayStation stuff, so it's like they're building us up to that. The Marathon and Destiny thing to me were big pops. It's just that Firewalk thing was like the first like balloon pop. I was like, oh no. Yeah, that was not great. Then the Gran Turismo trailer, and then be like, thank you for coming. I'm like, wait, what? That's kind of how I felt. So yeah, it's like, I think objectively good show. Like, I don't think you can, like, you have to be really cynical to say that this is not great, that this is bad, but I don't disagree with the sentiment. Like, I don't, like, I still like will forever remain salty that this is what happened, that we got this delay because Sony was fighting tooth and nail over a third-party game. So, and with that,
Sony's gonna Sony.
Yeah, Sony's gonna Sony. So now, here's what I'm hoping. Like, Xbox fans were terrified, because I can't imagine a worse month than Xbox had than this past month, which Redfall, a big exclusive for them, like bombed so catastrophically, like critically, and the CMA blocking the Activision deal, even though they got a slight win with the EU, it's still like, they need to win all three to be able to pass that deal. And then when that was happening, Sony announcing, we're back, we haven't been a showcase, so we're back. So they're like, oh no, it's like we're in a weak spot, and here comes Sony wanting to like kick us while we're down. No, it's like Sony literally was like, they saw the man that was like just laying there, and they just decided to walk. They didn't want to. Sony didn't come in for the kill. They just did a showcase just because. So now Xbox, imagine if they actually have a killer showcase, one that they have to prove something. I would love now that, because now we will have comparisons. Like now both of them came. Now we're both have shown stuff. Who did it better? Imagine if after all this, even after the month Xbox had, then at the mindshare, like, here's the worst part. This we didn't cover this, but this is when I saw the Sony reports that I was showing you, the image when you were asking me about why does the live servicing have games but it's studio names, and then I was telling you, like, because the games haven't been officially announced. So like, in politics, like,
after
they have
all
to tell.
This, I could have sworn that they had like announced even the key art, the name that talked about it.
Exactly. So
but yeah, you're right, because it's not like, because factions, I guess, isn't confirmed to be factions.
Yeah, exactly. We are just calling it that because we know it's like that's what the multiplayer was. But during that financial call, they were saying that their goal for the next fiscal year was like, we want to dominate total mindshare. That's what they're saying. It's like, we want to like dominate the mindshare. I look at the showcase and I'm like, is this what total mindshare is for you? I don't know, man. Like, it's like, if those are your goals, like, and this was your open and salvo, I don't think that's what that means. But if what that means is that to dominate mindshare, it means that you're gonna talk more, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll totally believe it when I say it. But as of right now, I'm glad that one of my top 5 most anticipated games, your number 2, if I remember correctly, my number 4, it's looking really good because your number 1 was Final Fantasy.
Yeah, because that Spider-Man
and Star Wars,
Jedi Survivor, and then Legend of Zelda.
And Legend of Zelda. So it's like you've been like, yeah. So just like the game is like looking to me, it's like I put it in that spot for a reason, and I'm like, yeah, it's like to me, it's like right in the money where I wanted. So currently, it's gonna be hard for me for anything to top Tears of the Kingdom for me right now, but I can't wait for it to see anyone try. But yeah, Spider-Man's looking great. I wish I could have felt like walked out of this like feeling excitement. I'd be like, yeah, it's great to be a PlayStation owner, I tell you. And technically it's like when you walk out of this, like at least I have games to play. This is kind of how it feels like. It's just like, here's the food, but not like here's why you invested on us. That's coming later. And I'm like, I hope Sony, again, I keep saying it, they need a kick in the teeth. They absolutely need that kick in the teeth, because then that's when they're not going to be playing us.
Yeah, it's just a shame that them learning their lesson is also required of us to get really crappy games and us not buying them and then voting with our wallets. Really.
Exactly, but they do great. That's the thing. Like in the things that matter in games, they're still doing good. I can't deny that. Like Spider-Man was like, why it's harder to be excited because I expect Spider-Man to be great. The biggest shocker would be if it comes out and it's bad. That would be like a catastrophe of unreasonable levels, but I doubt it. Insomniac is just that excellent. I've never seen a single developer carry like the first party like baton as heavy as they are. I tell you, that meme that Gene Park posted that I sent that has like the Spider-Man like lifting thing. That's how they feel. That's how many single player studios Sony has that they haven't gone yet. That's crazy, and they're selling that much. Sony, like, they were so shrewd at getting Insomniac when they did. Those 229 million have paid off so handsomely for them. And so, and with that, Paul, that was a showcase. So B minus, do you feel the same way?
Pretty much. I think I would probably give it a B or B plus personally. But just like you said, it really depends on the communication of Sony after this. Yeah. If this is all that they're giving us, it gets knocked down a couple of points. If they start telling us more, then it might even go up. I don't know. Yeah,
it's like, to me, like how I see it is like a B plus showcase for just games, like the amount of games that we got. A C minus to D showcase of first party stuff, like what like for new first party stuff. So that's why like I balance it out to like B minus feels like overall how it feels like just on context of everything, but that's still good. Like I don't think like a B minus should be seen as bad. It's just that to me like A pluses were the first two showcases. The 2021 was like a B plus for me. So this is definitely the weakest one of the 4 name showcases of the PS5 era. So Sony, please. Because I just know that it's like you can't keep coasting forever. Like your inertia would eventually stop. So, and with that, Paul, read us the release dates for the week of May 28th to June 3rd.
June 3rd. Yeah. All right. Chicory, A Colorful Tale on Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One on May 30th. Company of Heroes 3 on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S on May 30th. That's
crazy. That's actually on consoles. Huh. I wasn't expecting that.
I'm actually surprised as well. System Shock on PC on May 30th, which we've heard like nothing about for a little bit, honestly.
Yeah, but it's actually coming out. We got code for it.
Shocking. Etrian Odyssey. Origins Collections on Switch and PC June 1st. And it's funny because all of these have only come out on like 1 or 2 consoles, and it feels great to say, and we're about to break that right now.
Yeah.
Because we're getting Killer Frequency on PlayStation 5, Xbox
everything.
Series X and S.
It's just everything.
Quest, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC.
Skatebird.
Skatebird, PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 on June 1st. Street Fighter 6 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, and PC on June 2nd. Super Mega Baseball 4 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on June 2nd. And We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie Ooh, that is a tongue
Yeah.
twister. On PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on June 2nd.
I would say like the big one, obviously, there is Street Fighter 6. I'm too busy with Zelda still to care about anything else currently, but I'm getting close to
Who knows
wrapping it
what's
up.
gonna happen
Yeah.
in like a week? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna get a lot of time with nothing else going on, plus
Mm-hmm.
travel, plus being trapped in Nashville. So
Yeah.
I'm only going to be able to play Legend of Zelda, and I have a very bad inkling feeling that by the time I'm done with that trip, I'm also going to be done with Zelda.
Yeah. But it would be the right at the right amount of time, because then after the week
Yeah,
after is Diablo 4. Are we getting that one?
I think so.
Yeah, because that could like
Might as
hold
well.
us. That could hold us to Final Fantasy,
Yeah,
and there's a
Final Fantasy
possibility.
16.
Crossing fingers, crossing fingers for that one. So,
I just want to know how it works so I don't need
uh,
to get my hopes up.
I know,
Like if I
same.
can kind of get the same code, if they just let
Uh-huh.
you put it on any account, we're golden. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna get really hyped. But then
Yeah.
if we can't, and that just doesn't happen, I'm gonna be sitting here like the Squidward meme again, while you go off and play pre-release games.
Yeah, we'll see how that happens. But until then, Paul, where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. I've been posting Legend of Zelda memes and me having fun in the game, I guess is a
Yeah.
better term
Mm-hmm.
for that. I want to keep building crazy things. I wish it didn't cost so much Zonite to be able to spawn it
Yeah.
wherever I wanted, because I would build the craziest, most nonsensical things,
Yeah.
but every little piece adds
I'm
up.
gonna go build that Metal Gear now.
I really want
So,
to. I did in fact build the attack drone.
mm,
At the time, I didn't have the battery capacity for it to work properly, but now I do. So we're gonna see how that works, and hopefully it happens. It's just
such a delightful game that it just allows for all of
wonderful.
that. Yeah, what a wonderful game. I'm at 8_Dorsegovi on Twitter, at Alejandro_Segovi93 on Instagram, and my current written content at seasongaming.com, where my review for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom may go live any day after this recording. So, and we want to thank you so much for tuning into this like more slightly shorter episode, just focus on that good/disappointing showcase. And can't wait to see the rest of the showcase, because now your Paul is like, I'm gonna have to like send a bat signal for next week as you travel, because you're not gonna be able to record while you're in Nashville, right? So
I highly doubt it.
yeah, so I'm gonna like relieve you from that duty. So I'm gonna ask our other guests to see who can come in for next week's recording, and then you're gonna come back right at the nick of time for the summer gaming begins, like the showcases. It was a weird thing that Sony started it now, and now we have to wait to see what Jeff Keighley does, what Xbox does, what Ubisoft does, and maybe it's anyone else, maybe Nintendo. Who knows? But until then, everyone, enjoy the rest of the week. Play some games. Keep playing Zelda. I bet you're playing. Everyone bought that game. It feels like. Stay healthy, stay safe, and
Resex.
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta luego.